Disclaimer: the video you are about to see has content that contains swearing, substance referencing, violence, and/or partial on-screen nudity. If you are a person under 13 years of age, do not watch this video by order of COPPA. In general, if you are over 13 but are sensitive, you may exit this video and find a nice wholesome video to watch. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey there guys, welcome to part 2 of this reaction to the trial episode of Elements of Justice Crusading for a Turnabout. Alright, let's see where it goes from here.
Princess Twilight, please explain what you mean.
It's simple, Your Honor. If Turning Page was the one who assaulted his father, and then proceeded to stab him in the head with the scooter, then Scootaloo would be completely innocent. Nothing but a bystander at most. Am I right, Princess Luna?
That's true.
We shall see. First, I think it's time for the defense's cross-examination of our witness. We've been putting that off for long enough now.
Right.
Yeah. I kind of forgot that Zakora was even here.
Very well. Let us begin the cross-examination.
Alright. Cross-examination.
That evening, I was tending to the plants near my home.
You were tending to plants?
Yes, my plants must grow up strong, lest the potion turn out wrong.
Including that poison joke in front of your home?
Yes, they're blooming but not quite grown, since only recently they were sown.
Are these plants of yours hard to find?
Many flowers around my home can't grow without the forest gnome. They're so rare that to meet my needs, I search the forest for their seeds. I tend to them both day and night, and harvest them when the time is right. But poison joke differs. It's often seen in a sproul, but at this time of year, it hardly grows at all.
So you scour the forest for plants. Did you happen to do that on the day of the murder?
I searched quite long that day. From dawn to dusk, I was away. When I got home with the seeds I sought, I tended to my garden plot.
Did you happen to visit the castle of the two sisters that day?
Yes, for along that castle's cliffside, sometimes rare flowers peek and hide. Sadly, when my search was done, I left without finding a single one.
Just to confirm, the body didn't happen to be at the foot of the bridge at that time, did it?
I understand what you mean to say, but no, the body wasn't there that day.
We already know when the victim died. It was long after this witness was scouring the area for plants. Stop wasting our time with these pointless questions and move on.
Well, at least I got some information. Not exactly sure how helpful it was, though.
Poison joke updated in the court record.
Please, continue, witness.
Two little ponies passed, heading towards the castle dome.
Did you happen to see who they were?
Of the colt I had no clue, but the filly was Miss Scootaloo.
So you saw the children walking through the forest that night?
It surely was a curious sight, two fools traveling solo that night. The forest danger is well known, so I thought, what are they doing alone?
They were going to settle the blackmail with Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. But I can't bring that up yet. It'll just be rejected outright.
These two ponies. Was there anything about them that caught your eye?
Scootaloo looked frightened, but that wasn't so strange. The forest scares any pony of any age. The colt was holding something thick, but not with his hooves, but with magic.
And what was that?
It was a bolt of fabric, rolled. The moonlight showed that it was gold.
That checks out with what Scootaloo said yesterday. Turning Page offered to carry it for her just in case.
This matches what we found at the crime scene, as there was a roll of golden silk left behind in the wagon.
It would seem that way.
He also carried a weapon, a sword of solid wood. Given where they were going, I thought this was good.
And I'm assuming this sword was in one piece. Am I right?
Indeed, there wasn't a single crack. The sword appeared fully intact.
So the defendant's sword really was whole while heading to the scene.
And it then broke when he used it to attack the victim.
Indeed. That's seeming more and more likely.
At some point here, I need to counter with how the sword really broke. But I'm still missing the evidence to support Turning's version of events. One way or another, I'm going to have to find it soon.
Good thinking.
Witness, please continue your testimony.
For a while I waited, but return they did not. So I chose to head home at an agile trot.
You just stood on the path and waited?
It would not have done to stand and wait, for time has an unchanging gait. Along the central path nearby, some plants were quite nearly bone dry. These I tended by the light of the moon, expecting the fools to come back soon.
How long were you waiting for them?
I worked from 9:45 to about 10:10, so a half hour had nearly passed by then.
And you just stood there, taking care of plants the whole time? Weren't you worried about two kids going so far into the forest by themselves?
Of course I was. Who wouldn't be? After all, they were in the Ever-Free. But for all that time there was no sound, nor any sign that they were found. On the path I kept one eye, in case they returned or another passed by.
I guess no one ever came then?
No one did, neither pony nor foal. I finished my work without seeing a soul. So I decided to head home and rest, until I heard something that brought dread to my chest. But soon I heard a strange far-off sound. I ran to where those ponies were bound.
Noise?
It sounded unlike anything I'd ever heard. Not a bear, manticore, wolf, or bird. I could hear it echo around, a strangely loud metallic sound.
You mean like a clang?
It was a particular tone to hear, though clang does suit well with what reached my ear.
This again? First a fabric roll and now a clang? Any other similarities to the case from 2 days ago I should know about? Do you know when you heard this clang?
As soon as I heard it, I checked the time. It was 10:15 right on the dime.
And do you know where it came from?
I know not, much to my shame. I could not tell from where it came. I remembered where the children were headed. The sound coming from there was a thought I dreaded.
So, what did you do then?
I made up my mind to find the fools. Reaching and protecting them were my goals. That plan was briefly sent awry when something weird caught my eye. On my way, a small shadow my eyes did track, but it jumped away before I could react.
A small shadow?
I wish I could describe it more than just weird, but it left as soon as it had appeared. Still, it was rather odd to me, so I included it with my testimony.
Do you know when and where you saw this shadow?
5 minutes after would be the when, so I'd wager it was 10:20 then, where is difficult I must confess, as Ever-Free has no address.
Here, witness. Point it out on this diagram.
You have my thanks, Princess Luna. Now let me fill this lacuna. Ah, yes, it was this spot right here. Or, at least, someplace near.
So just on the path?
I thought we were on the path towards collision, but then it jumped out of my line of vision.
For those unaware, the Ever-Free Forest is notorious for being absolutely pitch black at night. The intense tree cover prevents most forms of light from reaching the forest floor. However, this incident occurred on the night of a full moon, so sunlight was able to illuminate the areas that lacked direct cover from trees. Unfortunately, the rest of the forest remained as pitch black as one would expect it to be.
Was there any detail about the shadow you could make out at all? Shape? Size? Anything?
Even in darkness, there was one distinct feature. At the very least, it seemed like a small creature.
A small
Small?
creature?
Like a child?
That's what I thought after what I'd seen. I looked for them, seeing only the forest green. I tried calling out, hoping they would return, but if they had responded, I could not discern. Perhaps they cared not to heed me well, or perhaps my voice drowned under the howling swell.
Howling?
Yes, and quite loudly, for one main reason. 'Tis now the Timberwolves' hunting season. Whenever they are on the prowl, they raise their canine heads and howl. On that night they were easily heard, and they kept going undeterred. When they stopped, I do not know. By then I knew it was time to go.
What do you think made them howl?
Who is to say? Certainly not me. Into a Timberwolf's mind I cannot see. As I have told you, it's their hunting season. But truthfully, it could be for any reason.
Let's focus on what we can answer then, shall we? Witness, what did you see once you arrived at the scene?
Upon arrival, what met my gaze I'll not forget for all my days. A pony's body, still with blood around his head, turning earth to mud.
But it wasn't blood. It was a cape, right?
I'll admit
Yeah.
my interpretation was flawed, but if you don't have a problem, don't needlessly prod.
You didn't check to make sure?
When I came upon the former guard of the law, his stillness shocked me, not a breath did he draw. Creeping closer to his still build, I hoped my fears would be dashed by thrills, but my suspicions proved correct, as I realized when I checked his neck. No pulse of life-giving blood I found. He was as dead as winter's ground.
And what did you do after that?
That gruesome discovery sent me reeling and gave me a terrible, sickening feeling. The moment I reclaimed my head, I glanced about, filled with dread. There were still the children I needed to find, and their fates were plaguing my mind. Thankfully, as I looked around, no other bodies could be found. Merely a scooter and a wagon lay amidst the frightening horde display.
There was no one nearby?
Perhaps that shadow, of which I caught sight, was one of the children in mid-flight. The other could have simply hid while farewell to that scene I bid. But that's just one thought in my mind, since no other figures I did find.
You sure? There was nobody there at all? Maybe, hiding in the trees or something?
Objection! Continuing to press the issue won't yield a different answer, defense. I suggest you move on before you waste all of our time.
Well, excuse me, princess. Nothing wrong with double checking, now is there?
Yeah, what's wrong with
Witness,
that?
What happened after you found the body?
Once I was sure that he was dead, to the police I quickly fled.
Did you happen to run into anyone on your way there?
While leaving the forest, I saw not a soul. It was, ironically, a more pleasant stroll.
I see. And how long did it take you to get to the police station?
I'm not sure. My sense of time dissolved amidst the thoughts of the crime.
Let's puzzle it out then, shall we? Witness, you claim to have left your house at 10:15. Is that correct?
Yes, it is exactly as you claim. I left right as the odd noise came.
From there, you headed to the scene of the crime, which we have confirmed was a roughly 15-minute walk. This means you arrived around 10:30. Next, you examined the scene. How long would you say you stayed there?
Well, it doesn't feel right to make a guess. I'd say 5 minutes, more or less.
So you left at 10:35. The walk out of the ruins and then back through the forest is approximately 35 minutes. The police station itself is another 10 minutes away from the forest. This puts the witness arriving there around 11:20 that night.
Those are some very nice calculations, Prosecutor Luna.
Oh, come on. Don't be that impressed.
The best is yet to come, Your Honor. I have here a report from that very station. It confirms that this witness notified the police of a body around that time.
Order! Order!
Great. Instead of casting doubt on her testimony, I just made it even more reliable. Come on. Oh, this is just hopeless. There's not a single contradiction. Oh, what am I supposed to do?
Enough! I believe we have reached the end of this cross-examination.
Agreed, Your Honor.
Uh-oh.
I don't think our golden pixie can take much more. Best we put her out of her misery now.
What about you, defense? Are you finished with this testimony? As far as the court can see, there were no contradictions contained within it. As things stand, we will have to trust in what the witness has told us. If you have a rebuttal, Miss Sykes, now would be the time to give it.
Athena, do you have anything?
Sure. I'll get right on it with a whole lot of nothing I can even say. Twilight, do you have any ideas?
Well, just one. But
Great. What is it?
I don't think it's a good idea, though.
Well, just tell it to me anyway. We can decide together.
I don't think we have the time for that, Athena. Let's just keep following the flow of the trial. Maybe something else will come up later that we can attack.
No, we can't just let this slide. This testimony is too damaging. We have to strike now.
I understand that, Athena. I do. But right now, I don't think there's anything more we can do.
But we can't just give up, Twilight. You said you'd try and help me in any way you could. If you have an idea for how to get us out of this mess, even if it's awful, you have to tell me. Otherwise, we'll lose.
I know that. But I can't let you do this. I've seen it happen before, and it's not worth it. There has to be another way.
There is no other way. We need to do something right now. We can't let Scootaloo or Turning Page down.
I'm not saying we should give up. I'm just saying that
Unless you two are interested in sharing with the court what you are squabbling about, I believe it is time we moved on.
No, I can't let this happen. If I let this testimony stand, I'll never be able to recover from it.
Very well. Witness, thank you for your time. You may...
Wait, hold on. There's something about the witness's testimony that I find strange.
Oh, really now? Please, do tell.
Athena, stop!
Sorry, Twilight, but I can't just sit and wait for an opportunity to show itself. I have to knock this testimony down now.
This better not be a bluff, Miss Sykes.
Of course it isn't, Your Honor.
If only.
Yes!
Shut up, Widget.
Talking to yourself, are we?
Don't let them distract you, Athena. If Twilight doesn't want to help me, then I'll just have to figure this out by myself. But there aren't any contradictions or flaws. What now? What would Mr. Wright do here? He'd turn his thinking around. Think outside of the box. If I can't cast doubt on the testimony itself, then what if I just cast doubt on the one testifying? Is there a way to do that?
Miss Sykes, I've had enough of you wasting this court's time. Present your rebuttal, or let us move on.
Yes, Your Honor. Here goes nothing. So, actually, the previous testimony didn't have any noticeable contradictions in it.
Wait,
Uh?
is that not what we've been saying this whole time?
Yes, but, well, what if we think about this another way?
Huh?
Another way?
Athena.
According to the testimony, Sakura saw Scootaloo and Turning Page headed towards the crime scene. She heard a noise and headed there herself. On the way, she came across the two running away from the scene, and shortly afterwards, she arrived on the site.
And right there, she found the dead body of one royal order. I see no point in us repeating all of this.
Well, Let's think about that last point for a minute. As we established earlier, the victim suffered both a blow to the side and a stab to the head. What's more, we know for a fact that after the victim was knocked to the ground, he managed to get back up again.
Quite so. Our current theory is that Turning Page was the one who hit him, using his sword. However, if he was killed right at that moment, the stab wound would be on the opposite side of his head. Therefore, he must have had an opportunity to stand upright before being stabbed and falling over again.
Right. But as was pointed out earlier, Scootaloo could not have been the one to inflict the fatal wound. She can't fly, so she wouldn't have been able to stab Royal Order in the head after he stood up.
That's
Which
true.
leads us to the conclusion that it must have been Turning Page. He used his magic to stab the victim with the scooter. There wasn't anyone else on the scene who could have done it, after all.
This is it. Now's my chance. I may not personally believe what I'm about to say, but I don't have a choice now. My hand's been forced. But there was someone on the scene, actually.
What?
After Scootaloo and Turning Page fled, someone else arrived and had the perfect opportunity to murder the victim.
Athena, please.
Where are you going with
Wait.
this?
You aren't saying...
Defense?
Let's assume that Turning Page really did hit his father, and he fell to the ground. Now, at that point, who's to say Scootaloo and Turning didn't flee right then, without killing him?
Then that would mean the one who showed up on the scene after they left would have...
Exactly. Given this scenario, it's entirely possible that our witness, Miss Sakura, is Royal Order's true killer.
What?
What?
Zikora?
Order in the court! Miss Sykes, are you saying that her whole testimony was one giant lie made to cover up her crime?
Not necessarily everything, just the part where she claimed to have stumbled across the dead body. The defense believes that, instead of finding Royal Order dead, Zikora came across him as he was getting up. She then took the scooter that was left on the scene and stabbed him in the head. Afterwards, she reported the body to the police, claiming he was already dead when she found him.
That is a ridiculous accusation! What could possibly be my motivation?
Turning and Scootaloo don't have motives either. Is it really that much of a stretch to suspect you as well?
She has a point.
I may not have any evidence to back up this claim, but you can't deny it is a possibility. As such, we shouldn't take stock in any of this witness's testimony.
It's true. The yellow attorney brings up a good point. But the court really do that, though?
Dunno. But hey, if she's right, that means those two kids are innocent.
Huh?
You naive child!
What?
Child?
Prosecutor Luna, please. There will be no insults in my courtroom.
For one who knows not the weight of her words, I can't think of a better comparison.
Hey! What gives? I was just...
You intend to cast doubt on the witness in order to save your own clients. Yet, to do so, you accuse her of committing the crime herself.
Well, what else was I supposed to do? That testimony
Was not at all conclusive.
Huh?
The witness never saw who the killer was. She didn't even clearly see who was running away from the scene.
But that's what you and your honor were assuming.
And it's your job to point out why that assumption is flawed. And demand further evidence and testimony for the prosecution to support their case. But instead of doing that, you have openly accused this witness. You have dirtied not just her name, but if you're wrong, yours as well. And you, ponies of the gallery, you who would be so quick to suspect this poor creature on nothing but a baseless theory. Shame on you all! Is this the kind of harmony Equestria seeks to share with the world?
Order! Order! That's enough, Prosecutor Luna. May contempt of court!
My apologies, Your Honor.
Well, that was
Say what you
easy.
want, Prosecutor Luna, but my theory doesn't contradict any of the evidence or testimony presented in this trial. As long as that remains true, I'm free to continue asserting it.
Very well. If that's the path you choose, so be it. I wonder if your co-counsel feels the same way, though.
Twilight?
I'm sorry, Twilight, but it's too late for me to back down.
Nevertheless, you shan't be relying on that theory for much longer. If I can't convince you to simply abandon it, then I'll just force you to go against it.
What do you mean? Uh-oh. I don't like the sound of this.
You mentioned motive a minute ago, did you not? The motive that Scootaloo and Turning Page lack? It's about time we discussed that, don't you think? So bring out that letter you received yesterday.
Letter?
The blackmail letter. I know you have it. Show it to the court. Now.
Darn it. What does she know about the blackmail? Did Scootaloo or Turning tell her?
Defense? What's this about a blackmail letter?
Your Honor, it's this right here. Scootaloo and her friends, the Cutie Mark Crusaders, received it yesterday afternoon. Their scooter, wagon, and capes were all stolen by some pony. To get them back, they'd have to bring the blackmailer a roll of golden silk.
Those items all sound familiar.
They should, Your Honor. All of these items were accounted for at the crime scene.
You're right. But why would that be?
Read the letter yourself, and I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Oh, the location of the blackmail. It's the same place where the murder occurred.
Precisely, Your Honor. Now, we finally know why the defendants were in the forest in the first place. They went to settle this deal with their blackmailer.
I see. And I guess this would mean Turning Page is a member of these Cutie Mark Crusaders?
Not exactly, Your Honor. The two had met for the first time earlier that day. They became quick friends over the course of an afternoon.
But then, why did Mr. Page get involved with the blackmail?
During her interrogation, the defendant, Scootaloo, mentions that she was backed into a corner when her friends decided against following the orders they were given. She decided, instead, to ask her newfound friend, Turning Page, to help her retrieve what had been taken. The two conspired to break into and steal from Carousel Boutique in order to acquire the golden silk the blackmailer asked for.
These two kids broke into a store?
Oh, this doesn't look good.
You think?
After acquiring the fabric, they proceeded to enter the forest and made their way to the scene where the blackmailer was waiting.
And this blackmailer, who were they?
I can answer that, Your Honor. The defense believes they were two fillies named Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon.
Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon?
An infamous pair of bullies whom the Crusaders are unfortunately well acquainted with. They constantly harass the group for not having their cutie marks yet, calling them names like Blank Flanks.
Bullies? How awful! Let me speak with them. There'll be no bullying on my watch.
You seem pretty content watching me get insulted, though. There's more, Your Honor. You see, yesterday when we spoke to Scootaloo at the detention center, we learned that an altercation between the Crusaders and these bullies occurred on the day of the murder. During that exchange, Turning Page came to their aid and chased the bullies off. This was where Scootaloo and Turning Page first met, and later spent time getting to know each other.
And I assume this is somehow related to the blackmail letter?
Precisely, Your Honor. The two fillies were angry that their encounter with the Crusaders ended with them getting told off, so they blackmailed them in retaliation. If you look at the top of the letter, you'll see that it begins with, "Hey there, Blank Flanks." The only ponies who would address the Crusaders as such are these bullies. This serves as definitive proof that the ponies who wrote the blackmail letter are none other than Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon.
Objection! Unfortunately, defense, that is not a wholly concrete possibility.
What?
Huh? But the insult
Could easily be a red herring by the author of the note. These fillies are not the only ones who are aware of that particular taunt. After all, if these fillies are as infamous as you say they are, then any pony familiar with them would know that they are fond of the term blank flank. It's hardly proof, defense. Suppose your honor began to refer to you as Golden Pixie. Would that make him me?
Well, would it, Golden Pixie? I very much would not mind being considered a princess, you know.
I'd rather not answer that, Your Honor.
God.
But now, let us turn our attention to the letter itself. I'm sure everyone can see that this note is written entirely in letters cut out from a magazine. As a result, it is impossible to perform any sort of writing analysis. However, that doesn't mean we can't prove who the author of this note is.
How?
If we could find the magazines that these letters were cut out from, it'd be a simple matter of matching the cuts on the letters to the holes in the magazines.
Yeah, but we don't have those magazines.
Are you sure about that?
What the?
Are those?
I have here 2 magazines with several letters cut out from many different pages. If the court would be so kind, I'd like to request some time for the police to analyze the letters on the note and the empty spaces in the magazines. If we get a match, then we'll know for a fact that the blackmail letter was written using these magazines.
Very well. The court grants the prosecution's request. Private Eye,
Yes, my lord.
please take this letter and these magazines and have an analysis performed. Try to have it done in 30 minutes if you can.
Certainly, my lord.
Prosecutor Luna, have the results come in yet?
They were just delivered, Your Honor.
And what's the conclusion?
The letters on the blackmail note match the shape of the cuts in the magazines.
Oh no.
I see. So it has been proven how the blackmail letter was written. But I fail to see how this helps us, prosecutor.
Rest assured, Your Honor, we did not simply pick those magazines up off the street or find them in a dumpster.
You must have found them in either Diamond or Silver's house, right?
The magazines that were used to write the blackmail letter were found in the home of Royal Order.
What?
What?
Order in the court! Prosecutor Luna, are you saying that the one behind the blackmail was the victim himself?
Oh my
At the
god.
time of the blackmail, it was his body that remained after Scootaloo and Turning Page fled the scene. Additionally, the magazines used to write the blackmail letter were found in his home. It certainly doesn't look good for him.
Magazines added to the court record.
Remember the Royal Guard was a blackmailer? I can't believe it. I won't believe it.
If you think about it, it does seem to line up. Objection! Prosecutor Luna, you can't seriously be suggesting that Royal Order is the blackmailer. It doesn't make any sense.
What do you mean by that, Princess Twilight?
Royal Order was in Canterlot on the eve of the murder. He would not have been able to steal the Crusaders' belongings, nor send them the blackmail letter. Those events transpired much earlier in the day. Unless the prosecution can explain how he absconded with the Crusaders' things while in Canterlot, it's impossible for him to be the blackmailer.
That's true.
So, well then, Prosecutor Luna, what do you say to that?
The defense is, of course, correct, Your Honor. Given the fact he was in Canterlot when the theft occurred, Royal Order could not be the blackmailer. However, I don't recall ever asserting that he was. The Sparkle merely assumed that would be my argument. and has seemingly overlooked the fatal implication this evidence actually holds.
What?
Royal Order was not around to set up this whole blackmailing scheme, yet the fact remains that these magazines were discovered in his home. This can only mean that the perpetrator of this blackmailing must be some pony else who lives there. We know for a fact it can't be Turning, given that he went with Scootaloo into the forest to settle the deal. That leaves us with only one other possibility.
You don't...
What?
The perpetrator can only be the victim's wife, Miss Fair Devotion.
What?
Order in the court! Prosecutor Luna, are you sure? That's the defendant's own mother!
I am, Your Honor, as much as it pains me to say. But remember, Turning Page was not the target of the blackmail. The Crusaders, and by extension Scootaloo, were. Turning simply accompanied her into the forest. In which case, it's not so unthinkable that his mother could very well have been behind the whole thing.
Objection!
Oh man.
This is ridiculous. Why would Miss Devotion want to blackmail the Crusaders?
Because she needed to.
What?
She needed to?
You explained it to us earlier, Defense, did you not? Turning Page confronted two bullies earlier that day. Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. He intervened whilst they were harassing the Crusaders. However, you left out the most important detail.
What detail?
That Turning's attack resulted in the fillies' dresses getting ruined.
Oh.
Now tell me, Golden Pixie, what do you suppose happened afterwards?
Afterwards?
There's plenty more to this story than what has been told. Luckily, thanks to our interrogation of Miss Devotion, we are able to shed light on this matter.
Please explain, prosecutor.
According to Fair Devotion, Diamond Tiara's mother, Spoiled Rich, met with her later that day, after hearing about the incident from her daughter. Those dresses Turning Page dirtied were custom-made and quite expensive. So, of course, Mrs. Rich was rather upset to hear about what had happened to them. Seeing as how the fault lay with her son, Spoiled demanded that Miss Devotion pay back the money in compensation.
And she agreed to that. Why?
Once again, out of necessity. Mrs. Rich happens to be the president of the Ponyville School Board. Miss Devotion feared that, if she didn't agree, Mrs. Rich would ensure that she would never work at the school again.
Oh man.
But now I'm sure you can see why Miss Devotion would need to get her hooves on a great deal of money quickly.
But the blackmail letter didn't ask for money. It asked for the fabric.
Indeed it did. Now, why, Miss Sparkle, would that be the case?
Why? Well, because...
Like I said, it takes a long time to make and it costs a lot of money.
Oh.
The fabric would fetch a pretty high price if sold to the right pony?
Exactly. The value of that golden silk was brought up during the fight between the kids. Turning must have overheard what was said and recounted the details to his mother when she confronted him. And that, fillies and gentle colts, is precisely what gave Miss Devotion the idea to blackmail the Cutie Mark Crusaders. She did it in order to pay off Spoiled Rich.
Oh no.
What is even happening right now? Luna somehow opened up the possibility that Fair Devotion wrote the blackmail letter.
You presented a very convincing argument, prosecutor. But there's still one thing that troubles me.
And what would that be, Your Honor?
Earlier, you said that you think Royal Order is somehow involved in the blackmail. But it's been proven that he wasn't around to steal the Cutie Mark Crusaders' effects or send the letter. So, how can that be?
There's no big mystery here, Your Honor. It's easy to imagine that Miss Devotion and her husband were working together.
What?
Working together? But I thought Mr. Order had gone into that forest to look for his son.
So Miss Devotion claims, but the prosecution sees no reason to trust her word anymore. The instant these magazines were matched with this blackmail letter, all of her testimony became highly suspect.
You're quite right. The magazines leave little room for doubt in regards to who the blackmailer was.
Which means they also cast doubt on her explanation for Mr. Order's movements. Taking that into account, we must seek another explanation for why he went into the forest. Luckily, there is a rather simple one. Perhaps, as soon as Mr. Order got home, Miss Devotion explained the whole situation to him. Armed with the knowledge of the blackmailing and the fabric roll, he would have left immediately for the castle. That would be the real reason why Royal Order went into the forest that night. He intended to act as the recipient for the blackmail. And thus, we arrive at the heart of the matter. The motive for the murder. I don't think we could ever truly know what happened at the foot of the bridge that night. However, if Mr. Order was the recipient for the exchange, then we can make a few inferences. It could be as simple as the negotiations going sour, or it could be that learning what his father was doing infuriated Turning to the point of attacking him. Whichever scenario you choose, the basic facts remain the same. Royal Order was present at the scene of the blackmail and died there, murdered. The only ones who could have done it are the only two who were at the scene at the time, Scootaloo and Turning Page. However, as the defense has previously demonstrated, it'd be rather difficult for Scootaloo to be involved in this crime, given her inability to fly and the fact that the victim was killed while standing. Therefore, the prosecution is willing to cut the defense a deal here.
What is it?
Concede that Turning Page is guilty of murdering his father, and will be willing to let Scootaloo off without a single charge.
Oh.
The choice is yours, Golden Pixie.
I hold it.
Huh? Turning?
Your Honor? No. Defend me if you must. But just know that if I think things start to look bad, I won't hesitate to confess if it means saving her.
He's going to confess. I have to stop him.
Athena, do something!
Objection! Turning, don't do this! We don't have to give up yet.
Thank you for fighting so hard for us, Miss Sykes. But this is honestly for the best.
Objection! No! It's not. I promised you both. I'd save the two of you together!
But there's no way you can do that now. Can you? And besides, this is...
Just tell me one thing, Turning. Who was it that you met at the bridge? Was it really your father?
No.
So I was right then. It was Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon.
Well, yes, it was. But that's...
Ha! See, Luna? The defendant just disproved your whole theory.
Objection! Yes, congratulations, my dear Golden Pixie. You can now add perjury to the defendant's list of charges.
Objection! Not if he's telling the truth, Prosecutor Luna.
In that case, defense, let's clear this matter up once and for all, shall we?
Wait, but I...
Shh. It's all right, Turning Page. Don't forget what I told you before this all started. You and Scootaloo have nothing to worry about. I promise. Surely, Miss Sykes can promise you the same?
Is she? Yes, she's trying to help them. Of course! That explains all those hints from before. And why she got so mad when I accused Sakura, too.
Oh well, whatever works.
There's no way I can do this by myself. She wants to help, and I need it. Accidenti! I'm never gonna get any better if I keep getting bailed out like this. But I need to do something. Just this once, okay? Just this once. Yes, Prosecutor Luna. I can indeed.
Glad to see we're on the same page, then.
All right. Go ahead, Miss Sykes.
Thank you, Turning.
I'm not quite sure I understand what just happened.
Then allow me to summarize for you, Your Honor. The prosecution claims that the orchestrator of the blackmailing deal was Fair Devotion. We claim this because of the magazines found in her home. These, as previously proven, were used to create the blackmail letter. We also claim that Miss Devotion sent her husband, Royal Order, to the scene for the exchange. He was subsequently killed by one or both of the ponies who arrived to settle the deal, Scootaloo and Turning Page. Meanwhile, the defense claims that the orchestrators of the blackmail were two fillies the Cutie Mark Crusaders had encountered earlier in the day, Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. Their main evidence is what Turning has just said, that the ponies he and Scootaloo met at the bridge that night were, in fact, Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. Defense, I hardly need to explain to you that testimony from the defendant is not entirely reliable, do I?
Not at all, Prosecutor Luna.
Then, by all means, do prove it to us. Prove that the one the defendants met at the crime scene was not Royal Order, but instead, those two fillies.
If I'm right that she's helping, then I have to believe that the evidence I need has already been shown. Unfortunately, all of the evidence relating to the blackmail seems to point directly at Miss Devotion. In that case, instead of trying to prove who the blackmailer was, I should focus on figuring out everyone's movements that night. If I can show that Royal Order's actions contradict the blackmailers, it should be enough to bring those two fillies to the stand. Prosecutor Luna, I have a question for you. How do you think the victim made it to the scene of the blackmail?
Ah, now we're asking the real questions. The prosecution is under the assumption that the victim would have wanted to get there as quickly as possible. Thus, he likely would have teleported as far as we know he could go, the crossroads, and simply walked the rest of the way. Simple, no? Objection!
Unfortunately, Prosecutor Luna, that's not possible.
Huh?
Why not, defense?
Turning, Scootaloo,
Yes, Miss Sykes?
remind me once again at what time the two of you entered the forest.
It was around 9:25, I'm pretty sure.
And while you were walking through the forest, did you ever come across anyone?
No.
I don't think so.
Prosecutor Luna, can you remind the court what time the victim left his house?
As we heard from Detective I's testimony, it was 9:30.
And do you know how long it takes to reach the crossroads from the forest entrance?
About 5 minutes.
Precisely. And that clears it all up then, doesn't it?
I'm afraid I'm not following.
The prosecution claims that Royal Order teleported himself to the crossroads as soon as he left his house. In other words, at 9:30. Additionally, we've just confirmed that Turning and Scootaloo entered the forest at 9:25. After a 5-minute walk, they would have reached the crossroads at 9:30.
Oh.
Oh!
In conclusion, the victim couldn't have teleported to the crossroads immediately after leaving his house, because if he did, he would have appeared right in front of the defendants.
Oh, that's right.
Objection!
Huh?
Very impressive, Golden Pixie. You've proven that Royal Order couldn't have been walking ahead of the defendants. But what's preventing him from having followed behind them? It might mean he was a little late to the meeting, but that alone doesn't make it an impossibility. Unless you have proof to the contrary, defense?
Oh,
Is
man.
something wrong, Miss Sykes? You look like you've come to a terrible realization.
He's right.
That's because she has.
And you just stood there, taking care of plants the whole time? Weren't you worried about two kids going so far into the forest by themselves?
Of course I was. Who wouldn't be? After all, they were in the Everfree. But for all that time there was no sound, nor any sign that they were found. On the path I kept one eye, in case they returned or another passed by.
I guess no one ever came then?
No one did, neither pony nor foal. I finished my work without seeing a soul.
Yeah.
The contradiction is obvious. But unless I retract my earlier accusation, it won't be credible.
Oh
Defense,
no.
what have you hit upon?
So, this is what Luna meant when she said she'd force me to abandon that theory. The only reason I made it was to remove that damaging testimony from the court's consideration. But now it's coming back to bite us. No, to bite me. This must have been what Twilight wanted to warn me about. She knew this could happen.
Well, Golden Pixie, don't keep me waiting.
Once again, I don't think I have much choice. No, that's not right. Not again. This isn't like before, when I could have let it go. This time I really have no choice. I have to do this. And Luna knows it. If she isn't out for blood, then letting Sakura's testimony stand shouldn't be much of a problem, regardless of how much it hurts our case. At this point, that's what I have to believe. Your Honor,
Yes, Miss Sykes?
before the defense makes its next argument, we would like to retract our accusation of Miss Sakura.
Defense? Did I hear that right? You wish to retract your accusation?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'll have you know, Miss Sykes, that I don't take kindly to fruitless accusations.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'll have to hold you in contempt of court as punishment.
Contempt! Objection! The prosecution objects to the defense being held in contempt.
What?
You do?
We can see that our opponent is merely a fledgling attorney, still trying to find her footing. Such inexperience can easily lead to impulsive decisions.
Prosecutor Luna.
Even so, in this line of work, such actions cannot be overlooked, Prosecutor Luna. They could easily lead to the destruction of an innocent life. As such, I feel punishment is necessary here.
I understand, Your Honor. In that case, why don't we leave that decision up to the one whose life was targeted? If she wishes for the defense to be punished, then the prosecution will stand down.
Very well. Witness, what do you say?
It's alright, Miss Sakura. You don't have to say anything. If you want to see me get punished, I won't blame you. What I did was rash and dumb. I'm just really new at this. Twilight here tried to stop me, but I didn't listen to her. As a result, I put you in danger, even though I knew I had no real reason to suspect you of anything. Especially when a certain feeling made me aware you'd never murder any pony.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't expect you to forgive me, but I just wanted the chance to say I'm sorry.
I understand what you meant to do, saving both Turning and Skulu. While your accusation has hurt my pride, I, for one, will take it in stride.
Really?
You and I desire the same, you see, to see those two young defendants set free. You evidently still have much to learn, but punishment from me you have not earned.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sakura.
The court acknowledges the witness's decision. The defense shall not be held in contempt. However, Miss Sykes, I'd better not see any more rash accusations come from you again.
Right.
If I do, you will be penalized and held in contempt, regardless of what the prosecution or witnesses may say.
Understood, Your Honor.
I'm glad we've cleared up that matter. So now let's return to the topic at hoof. The prosecution still believes that Royal Order was the recipient for the blackmail exchange. The defense has proven, however, that he could not have arrived at the scene prior to the defendants. Our amended theory is that he followed behind the children as they made their way through the forest. Defense, do you have any objections to this interpretation?
I do.
Then, by all means, state them here and now.
It all relies on Sakura's witness testimony.
What is it?
Well, she claimed to have kept an eye on the forest path ever since she saw Turning in Scootaloo Pass. She continued watching until 10:10, when she finally retired for the evening. During that entire time, she didn't see any pony following behind the defendants. That means the victim couldn't have passed by during that time frame.
Objection! Need I suggest the obvious? Mr. Order could have easily waited until Sakura had stopped watching the path before continuing onwards. Or better yet, he could have simply walked off the path and through the woods himself using an illumination spell.
Objection! But that doesn't make any sense either. There's no way he could have known when Sakura would leave. Even if, for whatever reason, he did wait, it takes about 15 minutes to reach the scene from Sakura's hut anyway. He'd be arriving at the castle no later than 10:25. But we know Turning and Scootaloo had likely left the castle by that time. Sakura spotted one of them in the form of a small shadow at 10:20. There would have been no chance for negotiations to even occur, let alone turn sour.
And the chance of using an illumination spell?
Highly unlikely. The Everfree Forest is pitch black at night. Under the cover of trees, you need a very strong source of light to find your way through. A light that strong in a place that dark would no doubt have caught Sakura's attention, no matter where it came from.
Indeed. There's no way I would have missed a light, and I did not see one at all that night.
Which leads us to only one conclusion. Royal Order could not have followed behind the defendants, nor made it to the scene ahead of them. Thus, Royal Order could not have been involved in the blackmail.
Oh. Well, how will that stand?
And with that, any motive for murder has completely disappeared.
Indeed. It would seem as if the prosecution's proposal no longer holds water. What say you in response, Prosecutor Luna?
Simply this, Your Honor. Bravo, Miss Sykes. That was a fantastic rebuttal.
Oh.
Thanks? I could say the same thing to you, given how much you helped.
It's too early for thanks, Golden Pixie.
What?
Oh boy, back to the nickname already.
Your assertions are solid and well-founded, but unfortunately, they are far from impregnable.
What?
Ooh, what do you mean?
Your claims hold strong only so long as the two assumptions they're based on are true.
What assumptions?
The first is the small shadow Miss Sakura saw. We can't know for certain it was related to these kids. If it's not, then we have no way of knowing exactly when they left the scene. In that instance, it would be more than possible for Royal Order to arrive late at the scene and still meet the defendants there.
Well, why don't we ask them now?
Objection! Any testimony they could offer on this matter would be heavily influenced by your own remarks, defense. They could easily claim to agree with your statements in order to support your story, and that would get us nowhere.
That may be true, but I'd still like to hear what they have to say regardless.
We're using our right to remain silent here.
Huh?
Yeah.
What? Why? If they told you, Golden Pixie, would that not defeat the entire purpose of the right?
You're right. Fine then. What's the second assumption?
Your initial rebuttal was based on the fact that Royal Order left his house at the specified time of 9:30. However, this information came from Miss Devotion, whose testimony is questionable. Can we really trust the time she gave for when her husband left home? And finally, there's one last problem with your rebuttal.
There's still more.
Even if we grant that those assumptions are true, your arguments utilize several different measurements of time in order to make your point stand. These measurements are but estimates based on a pony's gait. Depending on the difference in size, walking speed, and other varying factors, there's always going to be a slight difference in how quickly or slowly one can travel from point A to point B. So, even though it may seem as though Royal Order would have teleported into the crossroads right before the defendant's eyes, it's still entirely possible that he could have done so before the two ever reached the area. So what's your next move going to be, defense? I'll grant that you managed to cast doubt on Royal Order acting as the blackmail recipient, but it still hasn't been proven to be false just yet. As long as we have no reason to doubt that Miss Devotion was the one behind the blackmail, it'll be difficult to refute this point.
But she's not the one behind the blackmail. Turning said it himself. The ponies he and Scootaloo met at the castle were Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon.
And yet, no evidence has been submitted which would suggest that either Diamond Tiara or Silver Spoon were even at the scene of the crime. We only have the defendant's words, which cannot be fully trusted.
Well,
That's true.
I know for a fact that Diamond and Silver were the ones who made the blackmail letter. They have to be the ones who were there that night. But how am I supposed to prove that if I can't even use Scootaloo and Turning's own words? If I'm right about Luna, the evidence to prove it must exist. But I've never even seen these kids before. How am I supposed to be able to... Objection!
What?
Twilight?
You're right, Prosecutor Luna. Looking through the evidence, there's nothing that can yet prove our claim, which is why the defense is prepared to submit new evidence.
You are?
We are, Athena.
Twilight.
Then, by all means, please present this evidence to us, Miss Sparkle.
Gladly, Your Honor.
Are those
Oh.
pieces of glass?
Oh,
Yes,
right.
Your Honor, but not quite. These glass fragments were found at the scene of the crime. However, the investigation concluded that they were actually a broken pair of nearsighted glasses.
Glasses?
Exactly. Now, if you run through the profiles of every single pony involved in this case so far, you'll notice that they all share a distinct characteristic. Not a single one of them wears glasses.
Yeah, that's true.
Prosecutor Luna, is this true?
It is, Your Honor.
That would, of course, make these shards of glass seem irrelevant to the case. However, if we take into account Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, then the story changes. For you see, one of them does wear glasses on a regular basis. Silver Spoon.
Yeah, that's right.
What?
Objection! Many ponies wear glasses, Miss Sparkle. So I'm afraid that alone isn't enough to substantiate your claim. Do you have any proof that those shards of glass are from Miss Spoon's glasses specifically?
Unfortunately, I don't. But it shouldn't be hard to figure out what the prescribed measurements of her glasses are. All we need to do is hear from her optometrist, and then we...
Objection! You wish to invade a child's privacy on nothing but an educated guess? You have no proof that these glasses were even broken on the night of the murder. For all you know, they could have been broken the day before, or the day before that. If you want us to collect a statement from the doctor, you'll first need to show us that those shards are, beyond reasonable doubt, related to the crime in question.
Very well. I'll do just that. Athena?
So much for no more getting bailed out. Twilight's doing all the work for us. If I hadn't jumped the gun with accusing Zecora...
Athena?
Yeah?
We're going to have to make a gamble here.
What do you mean?
Apart from hearing from Turning and Scootaloo, there's only one way we can prove when those glasses were broken. Seeing how Luna won't accept either of their words, our only hope is that she can recall in enough detail what she saw that day.
You mean...
Yes, but before I do this, I just want to make sure you're okay with it.
At this point, you seem to know far better than me how to handle this. Go ahead.
Defense! Present your evidence to the court now! What can prove the connection these glass shards have with this case?
Your Honor, if you recall, we heard testimony from Zecora earlier. She spoke about what she was doing that day before the crime occurred. One of those activities was looking for rare flowers, right around the scene of the crime.
Yes, for along that castle's cliffside, sometimes rare flowers peek and hide. Sadly, when my search was done, I left without finding a single one.
She did say that.
Yes, I do remember that. But what significance does that have here?
If Zecora had gone to the scene earlier that day, then she might be able to confirm for us whether or not the shards in question were present at the time.
Oh, yeah.
That's right!
So, Zecora, can you confirm for us? The glass shards in the picture here. Were they there when you went to the scene that day?
How funny you bring this up to me. It just came rushing back, you see. That night at the scene, those shards I did spy. The glint of the moonlight caught my eye. And as for their presence earlier that day, I think you'll like what I have to say. Because as far as I can recall...
Well?
There were no glass shards there at all.
Thank you, Zecora. You've been a great help. So there you have it, Prosecutor Luna. The glasses were undoubtedly broken on the day in question, at some point prior to Zecora coming across the body. And I'm confident that once you get these shards examined, you'll find that they match up with the glasses Silver Spoon is prescribed to wear. That, in combination with the defendant's testimony, will leave very little room for doubt, I'd say. It'll prove conclusively that both Silver Spoon and Diamond Tiara were at the scene that very night.
I concur with Princess Twilight. Prosecutor Luna, what are your thoughts?
The prosecution concedes that the glasses prove exactly what the defense claims.
What?
You do?
There is, however, one final question I must ask.
Oh no. And what would that be?
Does your stance in regards to why these two would have been in the forest that night remain unchanged? The evidence speaks for itself. The one who orchestrated this blackmail was Fair Devotion. It's possible you may have proven that Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon were at the scene, but do you still claim that they were the blackmailers, even in the face of evidence?
Yes, that's a very good question. Defense, do you have an answer?
What do you think, Athena?
What? Me?
Yeah.
Twilight? I'm not even sure I should say anything at this point. I've already messed up once before, making claims that I couldn't back up.
True, but this is different from then. We have a footing now, one backed up by our own evidence. Regardless of how this trial has gone so far for us, I think we're finally getting somewhere. I think this is our chance to make up for our mistakes.
You mean my mistakes? But Twilight...
Athena! I know you feel like you messed up, but that doesn't matter right now. I took a huge gamble with objecting earlier, but I did that because I trusted you could back me up if I needed you to. Yes, you accused Sakura, but we can't let that stop us. We've got one chance to bring those fillies to the stand. We have to take it.
Twilight, even after what I did, you still believe in me?
Of course she does.
Twilight just paved the way for us to make our comeback. Even if the evidence is stacked against us, we have to take a chance here. Together.
Miss Sykes! Princess Twilight!
Yes?
Do you, or do you not, still assert that Miss Tiara and Miss Spoon were the ones behind the blackmailing?
Ready, Athena?
I hope so.
The Golden Pixie is back from her sulking journey, I see. Let us hear this final answer, then.
The defense?
Yes.
The defense still believes that Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon were the ones who blackmailed the Cutie Mark Crusaders.
Objection! And how do you expect that claim to hold, Golden Pixie? The evidence has clearly established that Fair Devotion is the only one who could have been the blackmailer. The magazines found in our home are conclusive to this fact.
That is true.
However, what if that very fact is nothing short of the true author's trap?
Oh.
You're claiming that us finding the magazines in Miss Devotion's household was something that the true blackmailer set up? And where's your evidence?
Of course. The glass shards. They prove that Silver Spoon and, presumably, Diamond Tiara were both at the scene where the blackmail was supposed to occur. That can't be a coincidence.
That's true.
If the magazines say they can't be the blackmailers, then perhaps that evidence should be called into question.
Exactly. The glass shards found at the scene corroborate the defendant's testimony. So if anything's suspect here, it's those magazines. It's quite possible they could have been placed in the victim's home in an attempt to mislead the investigation.
Yeah, that is a possibility.
You have no definitive proof of your claim, just speculation and guesswork.
Then there's only one way we can settle this. The defense wishes to call Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon to the stand.
We know they were there. It's impossible to hide that now. What matters at this point is what they saw.
Were they the blackmailers, or was it someone else? The only way we can find out for sure is by hearing what they have to say.
Well, are you gonna take it?
Allow me to give my thoughts on the matter.
Please
The
do.
prosecution has given us a very convincing case with only the slightest room for doubt. However, given the potential that there were additional witnesses to the crime that we have yet to hear from, I do not feel it is right for me to give a verdict at this time. Prosecutor Luna, what say you?
I wholeheartedly agree, Your Honor. The defense has pointed out an interesting conundrum. By all accounts, it should be impossible for Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon to be the perpetrators of this blackmail. However, it was their effects that were found at the blackmail site, which would lead one to believe that they were involved. This contradiction cannot go unresolved. Therefore, the prosecution concedes to the defense's request.
Very well. This court will now enter a 30-minute recess. During that time, I expect the prosecution to obtain the results on those glass shards and find out if they match the prescription of the filly Silver Spoon. If by chance they do, the court demands that she and Diamond Tiara are summoned here immediately to give testimony.
That last bit will be entirely unnecessary, Your Honor. After all, the two of them are already sitting in the witness lobby, waiting to be summoned to the stand.
Really?
Court is now adjourned.
All right. To be continued. Voices: Julius Jem, Stephen Wright as Phoenix Wright, Ed Oxographist as Athena Sykes and Widget, Web Shooter as Apollo Justice, Kaylin V.O. as Trucy Wright, April Ann Tess as Twilight Sparkle, Kimmy as Rainbow Dash, Cadet Redshirt as Applejack, Pretty Pegasus Wings as Zecora, Silver Feathers Shannon Evans as Scootaloo, MLP Arts as Rarity, Applebloom, and Sweetie Belle, Optic Rainfall as Turning Page, Pretzelman 718 Joe Cheney as Private Eye, The Al Javis AJ Davis as Bailiff, DeWilstonator Thespio as the Judge, Goddess Level 1 as Princess Luna. Just gonna mute it. Voices of Gallery Ponies in order: MLP MV Guy, Jibril Slade, YD Jian, Daejeon Yoon, The Sound Man, Levi Francis, SKVA, Snea Kumar, Overgrowth, Katie Randolph, J.M. Boat, James Boot, Jarvie Jared, Jared Burbabe, Serenity, Everett Toes, Silver Feathers, Shannon Evans. Sound engineers: The Sound Man, Levi Francis Joel, Mr. Gentleman's Benjamin Dale. Writers: Serenity, Everett Tones, Destro VA, Caleb Del Rosario, J.M. Boot, James Boot, Jarvie Jared, Jared Berbereb, Andrathist, Andrew Schurch, The Al Javis, A.J. Davis. Writer of Zecora's Lines: Andrathist, Andrew Schurch, Pretty Pegasus Wings, Jarvie Jared, Jared Berbereb. Background artist: Defendant Lobby, Cadet Redshirt, Judge's Chair, V-Chart, Courtroom Panorama, Shannon Evans, Courtroom Overview, The Al Javis, A.J. Davis, Co-Counsel View, Beppy. Video editors: The Joker, Kevin Randolph, Gerbo, Jermaine Barnhorn, Emerald GD, Josh B, MLPMV Guy, Jibril Slade, The Al Javis, AJ Davis, Animation Riggers: H3 RCM, Rodrigo Calciol Message, MLPMV Guy, Jibril Slade, Silver Feathers, Shannon Evans, Pretty Pegasus Wings. Music: Spirit of Justice, Jingle, Take a Breather, Justice for All remix by Crane Zero, Yel San, Defendant Lobby, Another Prelude, Dual Destinies, Court Begins 2013. Elements of Justice, Jarvie Jared, Princess Luna, Dark Mirror at the Courtroom, Elements of Justice, Join the Herd, Basics of the Case, Elements of Justice, Jarvie Jared, Private Eye, A Gentleman's Composition, Dual Destinies, Cross-Examination, Moderato 2013, Dual Destinies, Logic Trinity, Dual Destinies, Athena Sykes, Courtroom Revolutionaire 2013, Dual Destinies, Suspense 2013, The Great Ace Attorney Adventures, Adjudication, Beta Unused, My Little Investigations, Trot Pilgrim, Announce the Truth, A Decisive Turnabout, Professor Lane vs. Ace Attorney, Logic and Witchcraft, My Little Pony Game Law, Zecora's Hut, Justice for All, remixed by Xenal, Cross-Examination, Moderato 2002. The Great Ace Attorney Adventures, Baroque von Zeeks, The Reaper of the Bailey, Justice for All, remixed by J.D. Paper, Trick and Magic, Justice for All, remixed by Nick Rosalind Oleksik, Announcing the Truth 2002, The Great Ace Attorney Adventures Foreboding, Professor Lane vs. Ace Attorney, Sealed, The Darkness Within, Ghost Trick, Towards Nothingness, The Great Ace Attorney Adventures, A Great Twist, Suspense Number 1, The Great Ace Attorney Adventures, A Great Twist, Suspense Number 2, Elements of Justice, Jarvie Jared, Trick Reasoning, Spirit of Justice, Logic Construct, Dual Destinies, Illegality of Fate, Zero Escape, Zero Time Dilemma, Nostalgic Scenery, My Little Investigations, Elements of Justice, Join the Herd, Wait a Second, A Spark of Truth, My Little Investigations Case 2, Logic and Trick, Dual Destinies, Announce the Truth. Apps used: Adobe Animate, Adobe Audition, Adobe After Effects, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere Pro, Clip Studio Paint EX, Paint Tool Sci 2, Audacity, FL Studio 20, Swivel, Toon Boom Harmony Premium, GIMP 10.2, Melodyne, Autodesk 3ds Max. Flashback Profile Art The Al Javis, AJ Davis. Graphics YD Jion, Daejeon Yun. The Sound Man Levi Francis. Ace Attorney Models 3D Models Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice. Retexturing Shannon Evans and AJ Davis, Trucy Wright. The Al Javis, AJ Davis, Athena Sykes. Silver Feathers Shannon Evans, Phoenix Wright, Apollo Justice, and the Judge. MLP Rigs, Mare Pony Base, Tired Brony, Stallion Pony Base, Minty Root, Twilight Sparkle, Rainbow Dash, Applejack, Sweetie Belle, Scootaloo, Apple Bloom and Turning Page, H3CRM, MLP MV Guy, and Shannon Evans. Rarity, Age 3 CRM, Rodrigo con Colleen Massage. Princess Luna, Age 3 CRM and MLP MV Guy. Private Eye, Shannon Evans and Age 3 CRM. Zikora, Shannon Evans and Pretty Pegasus Wings. Team Leaders, The Joker, Kevin Randolph, Video Editing Department. Silver Feathers, Shannon Evans, Background Artist Department. Destro VA, Caleb Del Rosario, Writing Department. MLP MV Guy, Jibril Slade, Animation Rigging Department. The Sound Man, Levi Francis, Audio Engineering Department. Automation Pipeline, The Sound Man, Levi Francis. Project Managers, The Sound Man, Levi Francis. MLP MV Guy, Jibril Slade. Destro VA, Caleb Del Rosario. Mr. Gentleman's, Benjamin Dale, Pretty Pegasus Wings. Ending credits theme, Message, original song by Ray Yasuda, performed by Shannon Evans, harmonies by Katie Randolph, translators by Kanono, Jane Red, Nami, and Triv, instrumental cover by Pyron Bryan, video and art by Daejeon Yun, mixed by Levi Francis and Daejeon Yun. Director, The Al Javis, AJ Davis. This fan-made sequel is based on Neo Artemis' original series Turnabout Storm. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic and Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney are owned and operated by Hasbro and Capcom respectively. This is a non-profit project that takes no ownership of their characters or soundtracks in this movie. Special thanks to Shannon Evans, Levi Francis, Jarvie Jared, Capcom, Hasbro, Neo Artemis, Gabu X, Zeus Assassin, and you for watching. Well, that certainly was an incredible episode. And I'm actually more interested in what will happen once the trial continues. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.